Firstly, thank you for the Sartre. You mentioned that if you exist, you have to fret about the future, and you often also mention Sartre, who talks of existential philosophy, which put radical emphasis on personal freedom, and is assuming that is in the context of the present moment. And his words are, "Man is condemned to be free," and I think with that brings an existential angst. While on the other hand, Srimad Bhagavad Gita talks about liberation of the ego and a unity with the nature. I mean, I don't have a clear sense of how these are exactly uh, complementing each other and how they contradict each other.
Hmm. They don't contradict each other. You see, what the existentialists, including Sartre, were saying was the nature of the human being is such that even if you want to suppress or disown consciousness, you will not succeed. So man is condemned to be free. And in that sense, Sartre would often quote a chair. He would take the example of a chair. He would say, the chair's existence, its purpose, they are all determined by somebody else. Form, purpose, everything is determined by somebody else. The chair exists for the sake of others. The chair has no volition over its present condition, and the chair will also not mind. Or even if it does not mind, we do not know. Whereas human beings, they are born without a predetermined purpose. So existentialism says that existence precedes essence. What does that mean? You exist and then you have to discover your essence.
Right.
Which means essentially in the language of neti neti, that nobody outside of you can supply you with your essence. Right? You are born as a baby, and that's just existence. And then it is part of your freedom to consciously determine what life is for. What life is for. Now the nihilist would step in and say, life is for nothing. The absurdist would come and say, it is impossible to reconcile a purposeful human being with a purposeless universe. Which is fine. Even these three can be shown to be consistent with each other. That is all right. Right? But what you have to take from the existentialists is that they are very fiercely refusing any external dictation of human life and life's purpose. They are saying, you and only you go and find out what this life is for. Your essence has to come from you, not from an external source.
You can ask a small clarification. So I think there's mention of existential angst
Yes.
in his writings, and so that, I guess, can come from even choosing to operate from an internal campus, and but I guess from what I understood in the words today, and in otherwise also, that there is less or almost no existential angst, I think, when you choose to submit to.
Your nature is to be free. And the society you are born in, the family, the education system, the economic system, they are commanding you all the time to follow, to serve, to just beat the common path. That's angst. In general, there is nothing around you to to whisper in your ears that liberation is possible, and that's angst. Our external situations are never in sync with our inner natural demand. The society that Sartre is coming from, France, Europe, of the last century, you see, they were still not really so much attuned to Vedantic philosophy that they could declare right at the outset that mukti is swabhav. Right? And because France was recovering from the travails of the Second World War, it had become all the more important to rebuild, construct, give a structure to the nation and the economy and everything. Therefore, there has to be followership. Therefore, patterns have to be adhered to. And none of that can ever be in harmony with your inner nature to never follow any pattern or any dictum. Are you getting? And that's angst. Something within me is not prepared to take lessons from anywhere. And yet the world is hell-bent on doling lessons at every steps. This one doles out lessons, that one does, and my grandmother, my teacher, my boss, my prime minister, my priest, all of them want to shape me in their predetermined ways. And they also show me benefits. And yet there is something within that just won't agree. That's angst. That's angst. Out of this angst, you got that cultural revolution of the 60s and 70s. So much happened in Europe at that time. And that was definitely a revolution, because we don't want to, you remember? We don't need no education. That's that. All in all, and the brick in the wall. I don't want to just follow that same pattern. We don't need no education. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Because everybody was trying to cast the newcomer in his own desire and image.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense, I think. So, well, I have a related question, but I don't want to take time from other people. So maybe I can
You may
ask.
continue, please. Everybody will benefit.
So I think there's an idea from 10 years or maybe 20 years ago from simulated reality, that we are living in a simulated reality, by Nick Bostrom. And he proposes three options in his paper. I don't exactly remember the option, but the conclusion was that there's an external agent that is controlling us, and that could be seen analogous to us submitting to truth in some way, and liberation of the ego. But I don't know if there's any value in actually having all these different ways of thinking, us being in a simulation, and it challenges the concept of free will in some way. So I guess the question really is there value in trying to meld all these theories into one theory, or treat them as a very separate?
System is not really about sifting through the various theories or even trying to regularize or harmonize them. All spirituality begins from a single point, the point of suffering. If I am all right, joyful, being in a simulated world, then I don't need to challenge it. Problem is not whether or not all this is virtual, simulated, real, fake, determined by somebody else. Is it a proxy life I'm living? All that is not really the central question. The central question is, am I all right?
Yeah, I think so. The reason I said it is because you mentioned to see sabko ek dekho. I think in other words is try to see things as unity, see diversity as a common expression of something more more beautiful, more common. So I think in that spirit I try to put this forward. But yes, I think I totally hear what you're saying. Thank you.
Welcome.